few people are interested.
Right. And did Bina take the cup?
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Yeah, I can take it. Yeah. Okay, come in. Take some coffee.
Okay, so I'm giving this class now, so I'll speak. Whatever. Okay. This is the class on creativity. Okay. Okay, you're on speaking. Okay. So this is the fourth installment of this class. Might want to take a few of these. We'll get to that a little bit later. Expand on that.
Yeah. I didn't get the message. You should have reminded me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, you just sent me the message, but I didn't get the message.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we'll kind of take off where we left off, and also maybe review a little bit a few different. I have to always get back into the mindset here. This is really what this is all about, and I think it's very important that people understand some of the differences between this approach to Yiddishkeit in general, as opposed to some of the other approaches. For me, and of course, as I said, being a person that's always been involved with creative outlets, it was very important for me to find an approach that is consistent with Yiddishkeit and it works hand in hand with it. It's not a conflict. A lot of people find when they have certain talents that they've been using in a certain way, especially as more in the secular world, they have a very hard time integrating that with Yiddishkeit, especially if they continue to do it in the way that they used to do it, or that they're accustomed to doing it in the real world. And I think that this is, there's another approach that people take sometimes is when they're going to become more religious, that they throw it away completely and they want to distance themselves as much as possible from whatever they had to do it. And that may be necessary as an interim step, because a lot of times we have to kind of rethink things and get out of old habits and start to approach it in a new way. And really think about that. The problem is that I don't think there's been I don't listen to a lot of speakers, and I don't have a lot of friends that have gone through a similar path. So I don't know if there are other people talking about this in terms of other people, how other people handle it. But I've taken it really, I think, a step further to include not only people who are specifically creative in terms of putting, being mashpia, putting out something, but also those that are simply sensitive to a more maybe aesthetic approach to life, and they appreciate things that are more creative, and they're more on a receiving end, but also how they can think of Yiddishkeit in general from a different angle that includes this kind of approach. So one of the things that I see to be very significant about, we talked about this, I think, this idea of as when a person sees themselves as a creation of Hashem, so then and sees themselves as a part of the creation as a whole. So then they start to look at what are we here for? A person has to ultimately ask themselves, really, really basic questions, which a lot of people actually don't deal with. They don't really have a clear understanding of some really, really basic questions like why are we here, and what does Hashem want from us, and what are we doing? And this allows us to have some really clear answers on some of those questions, and which indicates a real active kind of there are implications when one realizes who they are, why they're here, what they're supposed to be doing. Then it has big implications for how they live their life on a day-to-day basis. And this, I think, is extremely important because there are many different approaches. I mean, very often people ask, or more involved in Kabbalah, for example, what's the difference between the Arizal and the Ramak? Okay, so it's very, very often that question is asked. So ultimately, most people answer, they talk about the idea of the line as opposed to the circle. There's an idea of the Arizal, which is dominated, Kabbalah and Hasidus to a large extent also. And by saying Kabbalah, I say that influences the literature world and the Sephardic world also, because his influence was extreme. His emphasis, I won't say that's his only thing he talks about, but his emphasis in terms of what we're here for is the concept of the tikkun. And you hear this a lot, the concept of tikkun neshama and Gilgulim, the idea of ultimately, the Shriya Sakelim, that we're trying to fix things that were broken, from the time before creation and all the behaviors that happen afterwards. The whole idea is really a kind of a vector. It's headed towards Mashiach, and everything is oriented towards bringing Mashiach or ultimately going towards Mashiach, and that's the tachlis, and that's ultimately what's going to happen. And that Chas v'sholom, I should say that's not that's not valid. I'm just saying that is one approach. That's there. Nobody's going to say that it's not a major thing. The question is, though, in terms of how we integrate that into our lives, how we choose to live. Okay, so the Ramak takes a much. He also talks about those in Yonim, but he doesn't. But his focus is on the concept of the creation as a whole and how Hashem manages the creation on a day-to-day basis, which talks a lot more about things like cycles. And it talks more about the mashpia makabel relationship in terms of how things go back and forth, because things are constantly going up and down and around, and things are influencing other things. And we're talking about, when we look at life from that perspective, we're talking about what is the role of man as a creation, and specifically the Jewish people as a specific, having been sent here for a particular purpose, particular mission, and been chosen, whatever, for that specific purpose. And what does that mean in terms of what we do every day? So when we look at, so from that perspective, what are we here to accomplish? First of all, we know who we are. We're creations, and as we've put it down here, the idea of Shriya Shama, we talk about the Doimim side, something Chaim Medaber. We're talking about all these different classifications within creation and where we stand in that hierarchy, on the different levels where we stand, and therefore what our purpose is. And what it comes down to basically is the concept of Mule Kol Ha'uretz Kevoido, which is the idea of filling the earth, filling all of creation, with a knowledge of Hashem. It's connecting Hashem to the Bria, making it to be one unified whole, and that we are declaring and showing and manifesting on a constant basis as much as possible that Hashem is here with us in the world. We're bringing the consciousness of Hashem into the world. Now that is a constant preoccupation. If you're involved in that, then that's something that has no end, because the Jew through the Torah. This is something you may have thought about this last parsha. Through the Torah, Hashem shows how he is connected to every single thing in the world and all the worlds, and what we're supposed to do with those things. In other words, there are other religions, other nations, whatever, that, non-Jewish people that have a concept that Hashem is in the world, Hashem is in everything. There are the pantheists, there are the theists, all these different kinds of philosophies. And they have a concept of Hashem being in the world, but they haven't been given the knowledge nor the directive to bring Hashem into every single thing in the world to the greatest extent that we can. Now, even among the Jewish people, with the Torah itself, there are certain things there are different classifications of our obligations. In other words, we have things that are mitzvahs, but even within mitzvahs, you got a mitzvahs d'oraisa, you got mitzvahs d'rabbanan, you got mitzvahs esei, mitzvahs lois esei. There are all kinds of mitzvahs. And among those mitzvahs, there are things with different levels of seemingly different levels of gravity. So I'm not really allowed to say something more important than something else, but some things are chayav misa. They're the capital punishments. Some things are chayav, you've got lavin, you've got different kinds of punishments. There's kodesh, there's malchus. There's all kinds of different punishments indicating there are different levels of mitzvahs and how they're treated. And then there are things that are basically optional. There are things that, and especially in the level of Kabbalah and the level of Chassidus, we're talking about Midas Chassidus, we're talking about things that are lifnim mishuas adin, as we say. It's not something that that you're judged on specifically, but they are talked about. They're revealed through the Torah of what our connection with those things is also, so that even though you can't force somebody to do it, you can't say that this is necessarily, you have to, in terms of priorities, you have to know, which things are more important, less important, in that sense of what comes first. But so there are different gradations, but it's basically all encompassing, because once you understand the chart that gave out, this idea of this is only one example, right? So at least in Oila Hazeh, this world, that includes everything. Doimim is inanimate, Someach is vegetable, Chai is living, life forms, and Medaber is human beings. So that basically includes everything. So we have to show, we are shown through the Torah how to reveal Hashem with all of these things. Now, okay, so let's go. There's a couple of ways that we can go from here, but I'll try to. First, I think it's important to talk about how this really affects our approach to Yiddishkeit and approach to life in general, how it's different from some of the other approaches. So, a lot of times when a person is looking at Torah in terms of simply a moral system of what I should do and what I'm not allowed to do, because these are the things you have to make sure that you've done those things, and other things you should make sure that you don't do those things. So on the most basic level is basically yes or no. In other words, don't do that, do this. And we don't necessarily even have to know why. Because, like a soldier goes into battle, ours is not the question why, ours is only to do or die, right? So it's like we are soldiers of Hashem. So we really don't have to know why everything is going on. It may help, to know why in order to make us stronger in resisting temptations and things like that, and to have more kavanah, do a good thing. But it's not necessary to be fulfilling this, except that we know that we're doing for Hashem. We know we're commanded to do it. We're doing it for the sake of the commandment. We're doing it for the sake of Hashem, and that's enough. But on the other hand, when you start to appreciate where these things are coming from and what these things relate to, it allows us to add a totally different dimension to it, because when we realize that the Torah is not just about yes or no, do this and don't do this. Because as I said, there's not everything is obligatory, and there's whatever. That's kind of like a parent-child relationship in terms of the parent is giving you directions to go here and not to go there, and you trust your parents, so you do what they're telling you to do. But if you really want to go beyond that, and you want to, first of all, get closer to Hashem. Like, I'm not just like any other child. I want to be the best child. I want to have the communication. I want to feel you're here and with me. I want to feel that I have a connection to you, and I'm doing things because I want to and not just because I have to. So then you have to start to understand, what does Hashem want from us? And the first thing that all the Sfurim agree is that the Das Hashem, that people should know Hashem, people should see Hashem. So when it comes to that, we're looking for opportunities as much as we can to connect this whole Bria with Hashem. And Hashem gives us tremendous opportunities to do that. And this is through what we talked about, is the idea of learning Torah. This Torah is telling, again, Torah in every aspect is telling us how things are connected. For example, you learn the dinim of Trumas and Maestris. So it's very specific. Do you take Meiser from this particular fruit or not, or this particular vegetation or whatever? It's mamash a connection with Sameach. You go through almost the entire world of Sameach, of vegetation, and they have to categorize everything. You do take Meiser, don't take Meiser. This is how you make Truma. All these different agricultural mitzvahs that unfortunately we lost track of a lot of extent today. But that the Torah is talking about, saying this is, so how do you bring Hashem into this thing that you harvested from the field by Trumas and Maestris and preparing the right way. There's ways to bring kedusha into certain things. If you take truma for something, you're giving that to the kohen. There's the things that you gave to the Beit Mikdash. This is a whole way of relating to things. You got the animals. So which things are you allowed to shecht, and which ones are you not? And how do you shecht things? How do you do it with the animals? How do you do it with birds? How do you do it with fish? How do you relate to each one has its own rules. So when we realize and we have in mind, the Shas, we're doing these mitzvahs, that I'm not just here for my own sake. I'm not just trying to rack up points so that I can go back to the Olam Haba and I can have a big Olam Haba. The idea is that I am interacting with the rest of the Bria, and I'm first of all showing the whole creation that I'm doing something with this thing that Hashem told me to do, and therefore I am correcting this thing. I'm elevating it up, and then of course the whole issue of innocence and the sparks in the food, that by eating the food or by preparing the food properly, one of all these different things are elevating those sparks that are within the food. That's also a big emphasis in the Arizal. So we're connecting ourselves in that way, but we're also connecting ourselves in the very fact that I can use this to serve Hashem with it. So I can show Hashem's malchus, that Hashem is king over this thing, simply by my having to do with this thing, al pitoyu. So there's that aspect of it. So everything now becomes, instead of an obligation that I just do it because I have to, I'm doing it now because I want to, because I want to have that opportunity of bringing Hashem more into the world as much as I possibly can. Then it's going to it's really limitless, the different levels that this goes to. But for the example of different activities during the day, right? So what am I doing with myself? So how am I doing the things I'm doing during the day? So for example, once you become aware that the body itself is established according to this pattern, this Eitz Chaim of the spheres, right? So the head is Chofet B'das, or and then you got the right hand is Chesed, the left hand is Gvura, and the body is Tiferes, right leg is Netzach, the left leg is Hoid, and whatever. So all of these different parts of the body corresponds to different midas. And once, of course, you understand what the midas are and how we use those midas. So then, what you understand, what you figure out is that the body itself is, every movement that you make is representing and symbolizing different midas. So if I raise up my right hand, or I'm using my right hand, for example, to give tzedakah, right, the right hand is representing the midah of chesed. So I am now, with my body, I am exercising the midah of, I'm activating and energizing the midah of chesed simply by doing a mitzvah with my right hand, right? When you walk down the street and you realize that your right hand is netzach and the left hand is hoy, right foot is netzach and the left foot is hoy. So by simply walking with your right foot and your left foot, you're exercising the midas of netzach and hoy, which go together, because when your netzach is victory, when you're victorious over something, it's a horror or the enemy or whatever it is, it's an active thing where you're doing it, a proactive type of thing. And on the other hand, is hoid, is that you're praising Hashem. So they go together. Once if Hashem helps you to be victorious or something, then immediately you praise Hashem for having done that. All of this, but it's not just reminding you So on the one hand, it's a consciousness where you understand that every movement that I'm doing is reminding me of something, but it's also that I'm actually exercising those things with my physical body. So what that means is that to understand again the background. According to a lot of Mrs. Forum and things like that, and a lot of philosophy that's gone on previously in through the course of history, Gashmius, the physical world, is looked at with great suspicion. It's looked at as being very dangerous, because the problem with Gashmius is that, because we've said many times already, you don't see Hashem with your physical eyes. You see, what you see in front of you is the world itself. And we know from the Chet of as we talked about, Chet of Chava and Sadas, the very fact that they were exposed and they were interested in being exposed to the physical world, and they were on such a high spiritual world, Gan Eden and everything else, that they experienced a tremendous fall. And it's very possible for a person who's on a very high spiritual level, but has not been exposed to temptations in the physical world, that they can fall very far when they are exposed to that, because it has a tremendous attraction. Why? Because we have a physical body, and our physical body is attracted to its source, which is physical things. Just as our spiritual, our neshama is from the spiritual world, and that is attracted to the spiritual things. Even saw in a sefer that they were saying that the whole highest of the world is from this dynamic of the fact that the physical world is that the body is pulling us towards the physical world, but the neshama is pulling us towards the spiritual world. And it's the fact that these things are going in like two different directions is giving the whole tension and the whole back and forth type of thing. The pulsing of the energy of the world itself is based on that, because we're really going in two directions. We're the only being that is going in those two directions simultaneously, or there's that interplay between and constant back and forth. On the one hand, we want to go up, and there's somebody pulling us down, so we have to pull ourselves back up again, everything else. But when you realize that the physical is really revealing the spiritual, they're connected, they're one and the same, they're fused one with the other. So what the dynamic is for everything in the world, there's something, they don't really get into this now. There's a difference between chomer and tzira. We talk about the chomer and the tzira. Okay, really it's more complicated than that. But chomer and tzira is the most basic way of talking about it. Form and matter. Okay, that's universal. Everybody talks about form and matter, right? Greeks talk about it. Everybody. Okay, what does that mean? It means that there is a physical entity, a physical, they call on the most basic level, something called Yuli, which is also, I think, it's the Greeks. It's an idea of something which is just basic stuff, which doesn't have any form. It could be made into anything. So it's like, and they talk about stem cells, as a matter of fact. At the earliest stages, they can become anything in the body. They don't have a specific identity. So when there's a connection to a design, there has to be a design that's fused on the chomer. It has to be made into something. So again, I mean, on a physical level, it's easier to understand it on a biological level. So you've got the DNA, for example, which gives the attributes where the stem cell is going to go and how the whole thing is going to be designed, how it's going to, even though the basic matter that makes it up is common to all throughout the body, but it's how it's used and where it's used and the whole design around it. So that's on a biological level, but that's the same thing on a physical level. What makes one molecule becomes used for water, and one molecule becomes used for fire, and one molecule is used for earth. They're all basically molecules or atoms, that's a common denominator that everything's made from, but it's the design that's being fused onto those things that makes it into what it is. It gives the evidence it has. Now, in Torah, they bring it down, they break it down to 4 levels. And this is from Sukkim in the Torah itself. You've got what is called Tavnis, and then you've got something called Tselem, and then you've got something called Demis, and then you got something called Tmuna, and all of those things are used in Chumash to speak about the relationship between Hashem and man and really everything in the world, in terms of how do you get from there to here, which is again a very major preoccupation, because Hashem is totally indescribable, totally outside the world, totally transcendent. So we can't say anything about him. But how do we get into this world, especially when you get to a point where we can actually communicate with them? That's a really, really big gap, that we have to understand a little bit about how that works. Not only that, though, because this is really the major crux of the issue is that the very fact that we can have any relationship with Hashem, despite the fact that he is so transcendent, knows so little about him, is based on the idea, as I think we said before, that there is a concept of being able to learn out the spiritual from the physical, which means that this is through a concept of resemblance. And that's what, when we talk about tselem and demus and tmun and all these things, they're levels of this resembles that. It's not the thing itself, but it's like it in some way. So therefore I can say, because I know this about this, therefore I know that this, and I know that there's a correspondence in this and that therefore I can say, this must be similar to this. So therefore I can get some kind of indication about what that is, even though I never saw it. And I just heard about it, or I talked to somebody who was there, but I was never there myself. So today we have stuff like pictures, and that wasn't always so like that. It wasn't always like that. Before go back before there were even cameras, right? So you had to get artists to draw something or see something. So let's say if an artist drew something, and I want to know what it looks like, right? So I'm dependent on the artist's drawing. Because this is dependent on the way the artist saw it. So you can have one artist who draws it like this, and one artist draws it like that. And they're drawing the same thing. And I'm getting my whole impression of what this thing is from the images that the artist drew from those things. But they're not the thing itself. There's still necessarily a gap that's going to be dependent on the perception of whoever saw it and how they saw it, and that's going to be transmitted to me, right? Now with cameras, it's better. Now it's gotten with artificial intelligence, it's gotten worse. But whatever, this is all, and that just shows how fragile this whole thing is, because the fact that somebody can misrepresent something, even intentionally, and make it look extremely realistic by fusing different pieces of this and that, it shows that how do we really know anything? How do we know? How can we rely on anything as being true if it's all based on how secondhand information from somebody? So that's why the Torah sets up a system where we know that there are attributes. And the Torah itself, we can trust the Torah, right? The Torah is telling us that there are certain attributes, and this is, and we can say that Hashem works through these certain attributes. And this is how these attributes expresses itself on each level of the hierarchy. And therefore, because I know that down here, that attribute looks like this, therefore, I can use my imagination, and of course, my perception is different than somebody else, but it says I have to know exactly what it is. So I have my own image in my head of what this is like, and I know that this is connected with something that I have experience with. So therefore, by extension, I have some kind of experience of what's going on at higher levels that I can't see. Right? So this is what's going on when we talk about anthropomorphism, for example, which is ascribing certain physical attributes to Hashem. And this is what's going on. We talk about how the Molochim look, right? And how the Kisya Kova. So what was the idea of, like, for example, when Chesed saw the Merkava, it says that it was like an image of an image of an image. It was a reflection of reflection of reflection. It wasn't he himself didn't see everything exactly the way it was. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went up on Har Sinai and then went into Shemaim, and he saw all this stuff, that was because he was on a level which was called aspeclaria the era, lucid speculum, something that it was so bright and so, because he was on such a pure level that he was allowed and able to see things that were going on a much, much more higher level than anybody else was. But and he tried to transmit, this information the best he could. But again, we're much more limited than it. So we only get, a part of the picture. But even the Nevi'im were on a lower level, and those Nevi'im were also on different levels. So some Nevi'im saw more than others. You got Shaya, nobody saw the Kisei HaKavod itself. Later generations were only able to talk in terms of Meshulam. But this whole idea of Meshulam, what's a Mushal? A moshel is comparing one thing to another so we can understand better. That's the whole idea of education, is that we should take something that's on a very high level, very, very abstract, and we want to bring it down into a more concrete, kind of expression, so that we have an idea of some kind of connection to it. It's not just a blob, it's not just a cloud, it's not just something that we have no idea whatsoever what's going on. And because we have some kind of connection, we have some way of imagining or understanding this on some level, and even though, of course, we have to be very, very humble to realize this is really what it is, really what it is, but this is some way of our having some kind of connection to it. And the fact that because we put those things together, that I have something here that I can think that this is as in some ways maybe similar to that, and I have a connection to that brings me up. That is something which gives me a tremendous inspiration. Inspiration means it's lifting you up out of your normal, everyday, gashmias environment, and it's taking to a higher place, which all of a sudden you can say, there's something up there that has some kind of connection to this that I saw once, or that or that's part of my life. And all of a sudden, this that opens things up, that enlightens me. That's an enlightenment. Okay.
Can you give a concrete example? Just one concrete example, so get it over.
Okay, a Torah, Sefer Torah, right?
Okay.
Has a crown. Okay, and this crown is usually made out of something precious material, silver, gold, whatever. It's made with great, great artistry, with great craftsmanship. And you look at the crown on the Sefer Torah. Why do we put a crown on the Sefer Torah? He's not a person. Three people wear crowns. The Sefer Torah doesn't wear a crown. But what does it mean? A crown is a symbol. It's a symbol of malchus. It's a symbol of being a king, of a kingship. So all of a sudden now it belongs to the king. Oh, I know. I saw a picture once of what a king looks like. It used to be part of people's daily life. Now it's something you hear about, read about. But it's a king represents something, right? So it represents something in a physical way, because you have an image of what a king looks like, and a king is a very exalted thing. And also, it indicates something that what does a king mean? A king means that a king has authority. A king can tell you what to do. You have to follow. He's a power. He represents all kinds of midas that are included in that concept of a king. So all of a sudden, I look at this beautiful Sefer Torah, which I could just say, oh, that looks nice. That's really a great piece of art, piece of work. But all of a sudden, it means something, because it connects to all of those ideas and all of those concepts and all of those midas, these attributes and everything else that are part of that thing. So the more the person understands what those connections are, the more when he looks at that crown, he says, this crown is a beautiful thing, but that's just an indication, just trying to get me to understand something about what it is, what's its essence is, what's my relationship to it, what does it do for me, how does it. So all of a sudden now, the Torah, this is the Torah, the words of the Torah, that's the crown, that's the king, that's what's, it slips me up, right? You can talk about, I was just learning about a beautiful shtickle talking about the rivers. There's an ayin base shemus, is the ayin base yeshurim of chesed, the bridges of chesed. And what's it talking about? So they ask, what this bridge? We have an idea of a bridge. So a bridge must have something going underneath it, and a bridge must have something that it is that. So first of all, how many bridges are there? What is going on each side of the bridge? What is going underneath the bridge, and who's going over the bridge? So it explains all those things that you've got the midah of Chachma and Bina is going underneath the bridge. That's the river. Why is it a river? Because it's taking from a source to a destination. It's flowing. It's bringing an energy flow from the source where it comes from. So Bina, whatever, it comes down and then it spreads out underneath. These aren't physical things. But I saw a beautiful river, and I know a river is a very powerful thing, and I know what a bridge is, and all of a sudden I can imagine that this concept in terms of these physical things. Okay, now once we get that down, we realize that that creativity is about being able to bring things up from one level to another through images. They could be images. They could be songs. They could be poems. They could be anything that is trying to reveal or to in some way to it comes by as remez, it's hinting, it's alluding It's an illusion. Poetry is all about illusions, right? You say one thing, that means something else. And everything is symbolic, is whatever. This is all because we want to inspire a person to realize that there's something higher, and that this thing is the way it is now here in this world because of the fact that it's an illusion to something that's that way in a higher world. Because when Hashem created the world, He created it from the top down. He created it, on the highest possible, abstract level, and then little by little, it's coming down more and more until it finally gets to the physical world. What does that mean? That everything in the physical world is derived from something higher than it. So all of this stuff is coming down, and we are just seeing the bottom level. So we have to then make those connections back up again. We want to connect it up to the top. So everything that when a person is trying to, what was in Beit Mikdash? The Beit Mikdash was beautiful, beautiful objects. It was clay kodesh. There was the Aron kodesh, and there was the mizbeach, and there was the kior, and there was the kohanim leviim, the Levitical choir, and there was the convenes. Every single thing was based on something on a higher level. There's a Beit Mikdash Mala, a Beit Mikdash Mata, and everything is corresponding. So when you look at at anything going on in the Beit Mikdash, you say, why is it like that? Must mean something. Wow, that's going on. That's what's going on upstairs. This is a scale model of what's going on upstairs. It's inspiring. It brings you up. It opens your mind. It opens your heart. It opens your eyes. All of a sudden, you see the world differently. You say, why is it like this down here? Because it's like that up there. So everything is connected, and it's inspiring you because it's bringing you to a higher level. It's opening your mind. And the fact is that what it really means is that the shoulders of our neshamas, why do we relate to it? Why does that suddenly bring us to this ecstasy that we're able to bring ourselves out of ourselves and realize it? Because we ourselves are in our source on that level. That's where we come from. The neshama comes from those higher worlds and is put into this physical body. It says that when the neshama is blown into the body, it's against its will. It doesn't want to come into the body because that's a tremendous limitation to come into a physical body. Why should it want to leave where it is? So the whole thing is because that's what Hashem Davka wants us to be. And when you talk about, I mentioned this question before about why should we look forward to Tchias HaMesim as being the real tachlis when the neshama is in a much better place in Gan Eden than coming back into this world in Tchias HaMesim. And the reason seems to be because what Hashem really wants is for everything to be, and why He put us here to begin with, was because He wanted us to bring Him down and make a dir of betachtoinim. He wanted us to make a place for Him in this world and make everything in the world be able to say, this whole idea that He's here among us because He created, and the fact that He created, again, He put the neshama into a physical body because He wanted those things to be fused together, so we would bring the neshama, this spiritual entity, into a physical thing, and enliven it. And then so what's the idea that when as long as your neshama is connected to your body, you're alive. When the neshama is separated from the body dies. Why? Because the neshama is what's enlivening the body, right? Obvious, right? So what does that mean? The more neshama we have, the more we activate the neshama by these kinds of understandings and being able to see the neshama in the goof and be able to see the neshama in everything around us, then we're bringing life. That's what's been mechaya the whole thing. That's what's bringing the life. So when we talk about Tchias HaMesim is because when on that level, Mashiach comes and Hashem is going to reveal Himself like He did on Kriyas Yam Suf and Har Sinai, those few times when people promised that the whole world saw Hashem, that is going to create such a cataclysmic transformation that it's going to turn everything around, and all of a sudden Hashem will be visible in this world, right? It's that he'll be showing Himself, because Hashem can do that. He's shown us already. It's possible. It's possible to show Himself, and just at least to the degree that we've listened. Obviously, the higher you've come in terms of your own preparation, the more you purify and transform your own body to be able to not be holding back that light, not be obscuring the light. The more you get rid of certain preconceptions about life and about the world and about Hashem that are actually holding you back from being able to receive that light, because your keli, your vessel to be able to receive it has been constricted by the virus and by, again, misconceptions and by all kinds of assumptions and all kinds of things that are just keeping us from being able to maximize that and be able to appreciate it fully. Because I'm telling you that what this means is that if a person ever feels bored or purposeless or depressed or anything on that negative level, it's because of himself. It is not because of anything the world did wrong. The world is here so you can take the darkest, rainiest, most horrible day, and you can go out there and you can say, amazing. This is amazing. I have such an opportunity here. We have oilam shona nefesh. We have the physical. The oilam is space, and shona is time, and nefesh is the neshama, right? The life force. Every single, again, I just said this already. I'm just reviewing now. We just said, okay, just taking like a little bit to the next level. Space means everything in space, everything in that has a place, right? That's place, right? That means every centimeter, every millimeter, every as far down as you want to go. Everything is invested with the chayas of Hashem. Everything, okay? If you don't see it, look for it. If you don't see it, figure out why I don't see it. Why do I not see it? Okay, that's just regular space. You don't have to go thousands of miles away to see some great thing. I mean, if you're into traveling, okay, so that's you're seeing the floors of Moira, going to another level. Hopefully that'll be a spiritual awakening for you, because you're going to see something that's really special, right? And it'll wake you up or open you up or some appreciation of Hashem on a different level because of seeing something else in space. Okay, but you don't have to, because you can see the same godliness is right next to you if you look at it. But if you notice it, not again be blinded to it because you've seen it before, right? Or you see it every day. But again, look at every single thing, and again, if you break it down and you understand where this is in terms of all these parameters that we're talking about, and be able to identify where it fits in and what it's doing and how it interacts with everything else. Okay, you'll never be busy with that. You'll never be done with it. Okay, that's in terms of oil. Then it's in terms of shuna, in terms of time. Time is every single second, every single moment can be used out to serve Hashem with. Every single thing, every single moment, because all you have to do is think about Hashem. All you have to do is look through your eyes and see what's going on and relate that to Hashem, and that's a kiddush Hashem right there, even without making the brucha, right? Just what's going on in your head. That's all. And if you talk to somebody else about Hashem, try to open them up to Hashem, whatever. How am I? That's even better. But every moment can be used to serve Hashem with. Okay, so that's shona. And then nefesh is you yourself. Every aspect of your own, it's right inside you. You don't have to worry about it. It's built in, right? All you have to do is activate it. All you have to do is go to the next level. So just take that little piece of yourself and say, now I'm gonna really work on that thing. That should be also a kiddush Hashem. Should also represent Hashem. It should manifest Hashem in the world, right? So and you have plenty of things in terms of your own self. You know yourself better than anybody else does, right? You know what you have to work with. So that's why I'm saying, when you live like this, with this perspective, I am a creation, and I was put here for a reason, and Hashem wants me to maximize that to the ultimate degree. It's exciting. It's constant discovery. It's constantly looking for opportunities to serve Hashem with them. And if you're doing that, that's like the ultimate sur meira va'asei toiv. Because the sur meira is stop thinking about all the negative. Stop turning towards the negative and blaming this and blaming that, or this is bad and that's bad, and why is this like this, why is this like that, and look at all the things that are not being done that should be done, and all the kinds of things that we're busy with all day. We're using out these precious koyches that we have for every moment, every aspect of our neshama, that instead of looking at how much can be made from it, how much we ourselves can be activating and maximizing the oilam shana nefesh is going on every single moment, we're thinking about things that shouldn't be like they are, shouldn't be like that. That in the whole we certainly around to look away from that. Don't worry about that so much. Just be involved with the Toyu. Do good with every single moment. That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be preoccupied with. Not all the things that we can complain about and say it's not the way it's supposed to be. Look at the way it is supposed to be, and then how I can be a part of it. Because that's the main thing that Hashem wants from us, is we should realize that we are a part of the whole, and we have the capability and the power to lift up the whole and bring it towards Hashem, and to bring Hashem back down into the world in whatever way we can, with whatever koyches He's given us. That is what should be our constant preoccupation. That's what we should be busy with. So if once we're doing that, then we're ba'achtis. We're ba'achtis with the entirety of creation, with ba'achtis with Hashem Himself. We're being makom His roots. This is what He wants. This is what His will that He wants from us desperately, and He wants that because He wants to be connected to us, and He wants us to be cooperating and participating and partnering in this whole massive enterprise, this whole massive vision that he had when He created the world to begin with. This is why it's here. Push it. Why it's here. This is what He wants from us. So again, the way that we do that is when we realize that the convenes is like the ultimate design that He had in mind from the beginning, where everything is on the highest possible level of spirituality, and everything, and how it fits together, and how it all makes sense, and all is beautifully coordinated, right? Then it comes down to the level of tselem. Tselem is the idea more of the ideal. So the beauty of the arts and things like that is that when it's done right, is that you're creating, you're getting to an ideal form. You're communicating what it should be like, and what we're striving for, and what we're going towards. And it's something that's beautiful, and that is attractive in the sense that it's pulling us up towards that potential. It's saying this is the way it could be if you really work on it, that this is what it's supposed to be. And this is why it was created that way. So that's a tselem. Then you come down to a demis, and that's like, it's already more of a demis is a lashon of doime, right? Huh?
Like something is like.
Like, yeah. Right. So the demus is like that because we resemble Hashem in certain ways. So we're a demus of Hashem. But that's on a lower level than tselem. Demus is like more like how it really is, but that's more concrete. And then you've got a tmuna, is like a picture. And that's like what it really is, but that's already kind of the reality. But then you have to work on that. You have to make that again to be a closer resemblance to the tselem, which is what it was designed to. So again, that's what gives us what to do, because we realize that we're here now. And in that sense, I'm not trying looking at, emphasizing the ra, the bad. I'm saying you have to have open eyes, you have to be realistic. Where are we holding? You have to know yourself. You have to know what's the reality, what is going on now. But you realize that that's just the starting point. Wherever you're holding, that's the starting point. Every day, that's hopefully moving up. That starting point is changing every day. And that's your starting point. And then what's the next step? How can I get that to be closer to the ideal, to where it's supposed to be, the potential, what was created to be. And then you're doing what we call bringing koyach el koyel, because Hashem created this koyach, this grand vision of which the Torah tells us how it's supposed to be, what He really wants it to be. And then little by little, we're moving throughout our lives to a greater implementation of that, to go towards the poil, which is the reality in real life. And that's changing every day. It's a moving target, something that's constantly dynamic. It always changing, constantly changing. And that's if you're alive. Because if a person's dead, then it's not changing anymore. He's done. It's finished. He's out over there already.
Could you please repeat what happens? What you said?
What, the 4 levels?
Yeah.
There's tavnis, that's the highest, most most abstract. Selim, you say the person is Selim Elakim. Hashem says those are Selim and the Demus.
Tavnit.
Tavnit, Selim, Demut, and Tmuna. Okay, any other questions in the last 2 minutes? No questions? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now when I put my little tzedakah in tzedakah box, I'm gonna think about it much more, with more passion, that I'm doing much more than I thought, just putting this little
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Becoming more godlike
Yeah,
also.
thank you so much. It's very inspiring. Thank you.
Listen.
Yep. Now, beautiful ladies, if you would like to help us, we would appreciate it. Really.